At dinner, my dad leaned across the table, his voice sharp enough to cut glass. "You're not invited to Christmas this year." For a second, the room went silent. My fork froze mid-air, the smell of roasted chicken hanging heavy around us. My mom shifted uncomfortably, and my sister smirked into her wine glass like she'd been waiting for this moment. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I just set my fork down, pulled out my phone under the table, and with 3 taps quietly transferred the 19 Park City Fund back into my account. Then, still smiling, I canceled the luxury cabin reservation that was supposed to be our family's perfect holiday. By morning, my phone was lit up with missed calls, frantic voicemails, and texts dripping with panic. And honestly, that chaos was the first Christmas gift I'd ever received that felt like it was truly meant for me. My name's Emily. I'm 28, and for the past 7 years, I've worked my way up in the logistics industry. I started out pushing papers and answering phones, but now I'm a senior project manager overseeing multi-million-dollar operations. My days are long, stressful, and relentless, but I thrive on that pressure. Deadlines, budgets, supply chains, it's not glamorous, but it's real. It pays well, and most importantly, I did it on my own. No handouts, no shortcuts. You'd think my family would be proud of that, right? A daughter who's independent, responsible, and finally hitting her stride. But my family? They've always looked at me through a different lens. To them, I'm the boring one. The serious one who never loosens up. The one who doesn't get the spotlight because I'm too busy keeping everything together. Let me introduce the cast of this little family drama. First, my dad. He's 53 and runs a small accounting firm in our city. On paper, he does okay. He's not a millionaire, not even close, but you'd never guess it from the way he struts around. He wears tailored suits he can't really afford, insists on driving a BMW that eats half his paycheck, and talks like he's the second coming of Warren Buffett. Growing up, I thought he was larger than life. Now I see the crack's ego wrapped in debt and bravado. Then there's my mom. She's 49, works part-time as an office assistant, and spends the rest of her energy smoothing things over. She hates conflict, can't stand uncomfortable conversations, and has mastered the art of pretending everything is fine when it very clearly isn't. If dad is gasoline, mom's the wet blanket always trying to put out fires, even if it means suffocating the truth. And finally, my sister, Claire. She's 25 going on 15, the kind of person who floats through life on charm and crocodile tears. She studied creative wellness in college, whatever that means, and has never managed to keep a steady job. Somehow, though, she always has designer handbags, the latest phone, salon-perfect nails, and endless free time to work on herself. Translation: everyone else funds her lifestyle while she posts motivational quotes on Instagram. Guess who's the main financier? That would be me. Over the years, it's become a pattern. Dad hits a rough patch in his business? I cover the shortfall. Mom wants to visit her sister out of state? I pay for the flights. Claire's car breaks down or her rent's overdue? My bank account takes the hit. At first, I didn't mind. I made good money, and helping family felt like the right thing to do. But slowly, their gratitude faded. My support stopped being a gift and turned into an expectation. It was like I'd been cast in a permanent role, the responsible one, the fixer, the human safety net. And the more I gave, the more invisible I became. Little did they know, that dinner where Dad snarled at me was the final straw, the spark that lit everything I had been holding back. Looking back now, I don't even know when it started. There wasn't a single moment where someone said, "Emily, from now on you'll be our family's financial safety net." It just happened. One favor turned into another, then another, until giving became automatic and asking became unnecessary. I still remember the first big help. I was 23, barely a year out of college, when Dad's firm hit a slump. He called me one night, his voice heavy. "Sweetheart, it's just a temporary cash flow issue. If I can't cover payroll, the business could collapse. Could you lend me 50? I'll pay you back in a month." Of course I said yes. He was my dad. He sounded desperate. That 1 month stretched into never. Then came Mom. She wanted to fly out to California to visit her sister who was recovering from surgery. Money was tight, she said, and Dad was stressed. She promised it was just a one-time thing. I covered her flights, her hotel, even slipped in some spending money because I didn't want her to feel guilty. She came back with souvenirs and a smile, but no mention of repayment. And Claire? Don't get me started. Her crises became seasonal. Spring, car trouble, summer, rent due, fall, self-care retreat. She absolutely needed for her mental health. Winter, Christmas shopping sprees that she swore she'd budgeted for. Somehow, every season, I was the one footing the bill. I told myself it was fine. I was making more money each year, climbing the ladder. 500 here, 1,000 there, what did it matter? But what I didn't notice was the shift in tone. At first, they asked with humility. Later, it became expectation. If I hesitated, even for a second, I'd get the guilt trip. But you're the successful one, Emily. You can handle it. We're family, aren't we? Family. That word was thrown around like a chain. It wasn't about love or support anymore. It was about obligation. My role wasn't daughter or sister, it was bank account. The worst part? No matter how much I gave, Claire was always the star. When she quit her job at a boutique because the manager didn't understand her creative vision, the family praised her bravery. When I got promoted to lead a multi-million-dollar project, Dad's reaction was, "Well, it's about time you did something worthwhile." Do you know what it feels like to break your back building a life, only to be invisible at your own family's table? To watch the person you've bailed out over and over again get applauded for quitting, while your success is brushed aside like it's nothing? It eats at you. Quietly, slowly, but relentlessly. So when Dad snarled those words at dinner, "You're not invited to Christmas this year," I didn't just hear rejection. I heard every unpaid loan, every dismissive remark, every time they treated me like a walking credit card instead of a daughter. That was the night the ATM shut down. Last September, everything changed for me professionally. After months of 12-hour days, missed weekends, and carrying projects no one else wanted to touch, I finally got the promotion I'd been grinding toward senior project manager on one of the company's largest logistics contracts. The pay raise was significant, and the performance bonus? It nearly doubled my salary for the year. For the first time in my life, I was staring at a bank account balance that made me feel like I'd really made it. A lot of people in my shoes would have splurged on a new car, or thrown the money into risky investments. Me? I wanted to do something bigger, something meaningful. I wanted to give my family a Christmas they'd never forget. Maybe, just maybe, if I created something special for them, they'd finally see me not just as the reliable background character but as someone who could bring joy, too. That's how I found the cabin. Park City, Utah. Luxury rental. 4 bedrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows with a mountain view, a gourmet kitchen, and a private hot tub overlooking snowy slopes. The kind of place celebrities vacation in. For one magical week between Christmas and New Year's, it could be ours for the small price of $19,000. $19,000. More than some people make in half a year. I clicked reserve without hesitation. I wasn't thinking about the money. I was thinking about the look on my mom's face when she'd walk into that spa package I booked just for her. I imagined my dad, networking with fellow vacationers at a fancy ski lodge, feeling proud to call me his daughter. I pictured Claire, for once, putting down her phone long enough to actually thank me, instead of posting about how the universe provided. I built this fantasy in my head piece by piece. I researched ski instructors for Claire, who had never touched a slope in her life. I found a wine tasting tour for Dad, since he liked to brag about his refined palate. I even booked fine dining reservations weeks in advance. I poured my heart into this trip like I was curating an experience not for myself, but for them. When I finally told Dad about it, I expected some level of gratitude. Instead, he gave me a curt nod and said, "About time you contributed something meaningful." No, thank you. No smile. Just entitlement. Claire was worse. She immediately blasted Instagram with screenshots of the cabin from the rental website as if she'd discovered and paid for it herself. She posted captions about how manifesting abundance was working for her and tagged her influencer friends in advance. To the outside world, it looked like her generosity had secured this magical Christmas. I should have seen the red flags right then, but I didn't. Because deep down, I was still desperate for them to see me as more than a wallet. I thought, once they actually arrived in Park City, once they saw the sheer effort I'd put in, they'd finally understand who I really was. I couldn't have been more wrong. 2 weeks before Christmas, I stopped by my parents' house for dinner. It wasn't unusual I'd been dropping off. Early gifts I'd picked up on business trips, little things I thought would make the holiday feel even more special. That night, the table was set with roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, and Mom's apple pie cooling on the counter. For a moment, it almost felt like the warm family scene I used to dream of. Almost. As I sat down, Claire was scrolling on her phone, giggling over some picture she wanted to post. "This is the ski outfit I'm getting," she said, angling the screen toward Mom. "My friends are already jealous. They keep asking me what it's like to have such a generous family." Mom beamed. Dad chuckled. I tried to join in, mentioning how I'd double-checked our dinner reservations for the Park City Steakhouse. That's when Dad cut me off. "You're not coming on the trip," he said flatly, not even looking at me. I blinked. "What?" "You heard me," he snapped, eyes still on Claire's phone. "We've decided it's going to be immediate family only this year. You'll understand." Immediate family. I sat there stunned, the words ricocheting in my head. I am their daughter, their oldest, the one who'd spent months planning this trip, paying for it, thinking of every little detail. Immediate family? If not me, then who? Claire smirked without missing a beat. "No offense, Em, but you kinda ruined the vibe. This is supposed to be fun and relaxing, not one of your boring responsibility lectures." I felt my blood pressure spike. I booked the cabin. I paid for it. $19,000. My voice was sharper than I intended, but I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Dad finally looked up, his expression annoyed, like I was interrupting something important. "Language, Emily. And yes, we appreciate you handling the logistics, but Claire's going through a difficult time right now. She quit her last job, and she needs family support. Your presence tends to create unnecessary tension." Mom nodded like a bobblehead. "Maybe it's for the best, honey. You work so hard you could use a quiet Christmas at home, relaxing by yourself." That's when it clicked. This wasn't about tension, or family bonding, or whatever excuse they wanted to spin. This was about Claire. Princess Claire, who couldn't stand the idea of sharing attention, who would rather exile me than risk gratitude being directed anywhere but her. I looked at the three of them, my father, mother, and sister, sitting there already planning their luxury vacation on my dime, making me the villain for daring to expect basic respect. Something cold and solid settled in my chest. "So, let me get this straight," I said slowly, my voice trembling more with anger than fear. "You want me to pay 19 grand for a luxury vacation I'm not even invited to attend?" "Don't be dramatic," Claire scoffed, finally looking up from her phone. "You make good money. You can afford it. We'll totally post pictures and tag you so you can see how much fun we're having." The casual cruelty of her tone hit me like a punch. She genuinely thought I'd be grateful to watch their vacation from behind a screen, like some forgotten cousin left out of the fun. Dad cleared his throat. "Emily, you're a grown woman with your own life. This is a chance for the core family unit to bond without complications. I'm sure you'll find something productive to do with your time." Complications. That's what I was to them. Not a daughter, not a sister. Just a complication to be managed, excluded, and forgotten when it was convenient. For a long moment, no one spoke. The clinking of Claire's fork against her plate was the only sound. I felt my throat tighten, but I swallowed the lump. I wouldn't give them tears. "Fine," I said at last, steady and quiet. They probably thought I meant I accepted it, that I'd go home, sulk, and maybe call later to beg for inclusion. But inside, I was already making a decision that would change everything. They had no idea the storm they'd just unleashed. I left dinner without another word. No yelling, no tears, no dramatic exit, just silence. If they thought silence meant surrender, they didn't know me at all. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop glowing in the dark. The cabin reservation was under Dad's name. He insisted on that for status reasons, but the credit card on file was mine. My money, my rules. I pulled up the confirmation email, hovered over the cancel reservation button, and clicked. A rush of satisfaction surged through me as I read the words. Refund. Processed. 19.0 returned to account. It was almost too easy. One click, and their perfect little fantasy dissolved into thin air. By morning, my phone was vibrating nonstop. 8 missed calls before 9 a.m. The first voicemail was Dad, sounding confused. Emily, there seems to be some error with the Park City booking. Call me immediately so we can sort this out. The second was sharper. This isn't funny. Whatever game you're playing, fix it right now. People are depending on this trip. By the third, his voice was tight with rage. You're embarrassing this family and yourself. End this nonsense today or there will be consequences. I listened to all of them while sipping my coffee, each one sweeter than the last. Then came Claire's texts. Are you serious right now? I already told everyone about Park City. My friends think I'm a liar. A minute later, you're ruining my reputation and my mental health. Do you even care? And then, fine, be a child about it. But you're paying for my therapy, because this is traumatic. The audacity made me laugh out loud. She wanted therapy money because I refused to fund a vacation she'd excluded me from. By the afternoon, Mom showed up at my apartment with a plate of still warm cookies. Her eyes were misty, her voice trembling like she'd rehearsed it in the car. Honey, I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding, she began softly. Your father didn't mean you weren't welcome. He's just worried about Claire's mental health right now. A smaller group seemed easier. So, am I invited again? I asked, arms crossed. Her smile wavered. Well, that depends. Can you fix the Park City situation first? Claire's already promised her friends souvenirs, and your father told his business partners about the cabin. We can't let them down. People will think we're unreliable. There it was. The truth laid bare. I wasn't invited because they valued me. I was conditionally invited because they needed me to clean up their mess. I leaned against the door frame. What if I don't fix it? For a split second, Mom's mask slipped. Her expression hardened. Her voice lost its softness. Then you're choosing to hurt your family, Emily. Is that really who you want to be? The daughter who destroys Christmas out of selfishness? Selfishness. After years of bailing them out, after thousands of dollars poured into their crises, I was the selfish one. I didn't bother responding. I simply walked her to the door, thanked her for the cookies, and closed it behind her. Inside, I wasn't angry anymore. I was calm, focused, because canceling the cabin was only phase 1. They thought this was the end of the game, but I was just setting the board. They had no idea how much worse it was going to get. In the days that followed, you'd think the canceled reservation would have forced my family to face reality, but no, reality wasn't something they ever dealt with directly. Instead, they doubled down on the fantasy. Claire's Instagram lit up like a Christmas tree. She posted glossy photos pulled straight from the Park City rental website, floor-to-ceiling windows, roaring fireplaces, mountain views. Her captions were nauseating. Can't wait for our magical family getaway. Blessed, Park City Christmas. Her friends commented with heart emojis and envy-laced messages. You're so lucky. Manifestation queen. And she soaked it up, replying with fake humility. I'm just grateful the universe provides. The universe. Right. By universe, she meant me. Meanwhile, Mom played along in the family group chat, sending heart emojis and gushing about family bonding time. Dad chimed in about wine selections, dropping hints about networking opportunities he was excited for in Park City. Reading their messages, you'd think the trip was alive and thriving. But behind the curtain, cracks were showing. One night, I got a call from my bank's fraud department. Ms. Carter, the agent said, we flagged a suspicious transaction attempt, a 19.0 deposit to a cabin rental service in Park City. It was declined because it didn't match your spending pattern. Did you authorize this? My stomach turned cold. My own father had tried to use my card without permission to rebook the cabin under his name. Fraud. Actual, literal fraud. It didn't stop there. A few days later, my Uncle Jim called me. His voice was tight with anger. "Emily, did you know your dad asked me for a 3-0 loan? He said it was for unexpected expenses on the family vacation. Said he was covering the main cost but just needed help with the extras. I trusted him. Now I'm wondering if I should've." Turns out, Dad had been systematically hitting up relatives, cousins, uncles, even a neighbor he sometimes golfed with. Always the same story. He was generously paying for a luxury family vacation, but just needed a little support with flights or dinners. By the time I pieced it together, he'd conned nearly 6-0 out of people who thought they were contributing to his gift. And all the while, Claire kept posting countdowns. 2 weeks until Park City Magic. New ski gear arrived today, can't decide which designer jacket to pack. The gall was breathtaking. I sat at my desk scrolling through screenshots of her posts, my bank statement with the fraud alert, and my uncle's texts. My family wasn't just ungrateful, they were reckless liars, conning everyone around them to maintain an illusion. That's when something inside me shifted. Canceling the cabin had been satisfying, but it wasn't enough. Not anymore. They weren't just trying to erase me. They were willing to steal from me, to scam our relatives, to destroy reputations, all for a fantasy. I leaned back in my chair, a calm resolve hardening in my chest. If they wanted to live in lies, I would make sure the truth destroyed them. And I had all the receipts. Once I saw the fraud alert and heard Uncle Jim's story, I knew this wasn't just family drama anymore. This was criminal. This was betrayal at a level I couldn't brush aside. But if there's one thing I've learned in my career as a logistics manager, it's this. You don't go into battle without a plan. Logistics is about timing, precision, and leverage. And now, I was going to use every skill I had honed at work against my own family. The first step was documentation. I started taking screenshots of everything. Claire's Instagram posts boasting about manifested abundance, Dad's texts demanding I fix the booking, Mom's guilt-tripping messages, and of course, the bank's fraud notification with Dad's name stamped on the attempted transaction. I compiled them into neatly organized folders, labeled and dated like I was prepping a corporate audit. Next came the relatives. Through Uncle Jim, I discreetly reached out to others. The picture that formed was even worse than I expected. Dad had asked my aunt for $500 for plane tickets, borrowed $200 from a cousin for ski lessons, and even convinced my grandmother, who lives on a fixed pension, to give him $300 so the kids could have a magical Christmas. Almost $6,000 in total, siphoned off through lies. Lies that painted him as the generous provider when, in reality, he was a parasite. And then, there was Claire. Every day she fed the illusion online, posting stock photos of Park City streets, tagging ski brands, talking about how grateful she was for family. I saved every single post. I knew her influencer friends would be very interested in finding out her content was built on fraud and delusion. The more evidence I gathered, the calmer I became. I wasn't acting out of anger anymore. I was building a case. This wasn't going to be a screaming match or a petty argument. This was going to be methodical destruction. Then, the opportunity presented itself. Through Uncle Jim again, I learned that Dad was planning a Christmas Eve party at the clubhouse in my apartment complex. He'd rented the space to host his business partners and clients, intending to regale them with stories of the luxurious Park City vacation his generosity had provided. Claire was bringing a photographer friend to stage candid shots they could post later, pretending they had just returned from the trip of a lifetime. It was the perfect stage. That's when I made my move. I quietly booked the same clubhouse for December 27th, 2 days after their event. I sent invitations to the entire extended family, to Dad's business associates, even to some of Claire's influencer circle. The invite was simple. Post, Christmas family gathering, exciting announcements for the new year. I didn't need to explain. Curiosity and my father's inflated ego would do the rest. In the meantime, I kept building my arsenal. I created a PowerPoint presentation that would make my corporate training team proud. Slide by slide, I laid out the truth. Proof of payment, The original Park City booking under Dad's name. My card on file. 19. 0 charged. Proof of cancellation. The refund confirmation with the exact date I pulled the plug. Claire's lies. Screenshots of her Instagram countdowns, stock photos, and hashtags. Fraud attempt. The bank's official notification of the declined transaction. Family scam. A breakdown of every loan Dad had begged from relatives, complete with texts, bank transfers, and voicemail recordings. I practiced the delivery in my head like it was a boardroom pitch. Calm, professional, undeniable. This wasn't just a family squabble, it was a case study in manipulation, entitlement, and deceit. On Christmas Eve, while they played make-believe at the clubhouse, I stayed home, laptop open, rehearsing my lines. I imagined the look on their faces when I revealed everything in front of the people whose opinions they cared about most. For once, it wouldn't be me defending myself. It would be them, scrambling, exposed, humiliated. And the beauty of it? They were digging their own graves deeper every day. Claire's posts grew more extravagant. Final shopping before Park City. Which designer boots should I pack? Dad bragged in the family group chat about selecting wine pairings for the mountain lodge. Mom added her syrupy encouragement, pretending not to see the cracks forming. By the time December 27th rolled around, they would be neck-deep in lies they couldn't possibly backtrack from. And I would be waiting, with every receipt neatly lined up, ready to bury them in the truth. This wasn't just revenge anymore. This was justice. December 27th arrived, crisp and cold, the kind of winter day where the air feels sharp in your lungs. The clubhouse buzzed with conversation as family members, aunts and uncles, cousins, even Dad's business associates filed in. People balanced plates of snacks and glasses of wine, laughing, chatting, expecting another warm family gathering. Claire made her entrance like she was walking a red carpet. She wore a brand new coat designer, of course her photographer friend trailing behind with a camera slung around his neck. She'd even changed her Instagram bio to "just back from Park City each. Blessed." Dad greeted guests with a booming voice, shaking hands, boasting about memories made in the mountains. Mom floated nearby, passing out smiles like coupons. They thought they had pulled it off. At 3 o'clock sharp, I stood up. "Can I have everyone's attention?" My voice carried easily, trained from years of corporate presentations. The room quieted, expectant. Dad's smile faltered, just slightly. "I wanted to share some updates about our family Christmas," I began. "There's been some confusion, and I think it's time we cleared things up." I connected my laptop to the big screen TV. The first slide appeared, the Park City booking confirmation. Dad's name listed as the renter, but my credit card as the payer. The amount: 19,000. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Next slide, the cancellation notice. Refund confirmed. 19,000 returned to my account on December 15th, the day after I was told I wasn't invited. Gasps. Someone whispered, "Wait, what?" Claire's face flushed. "Emily, what are you doing?" I didn't answer. I clicked again. Screenshots of Claire's Instagram posts filled the screen, her countdowns, her fake cabin photos, her hashtags about being blessed. "As you can see," I said calmly, "this entire online persona was built on a trip that never existed." The room buzzed with disbelief. Claire's photographer friend lowered his camera, eyes wide. "You lied?" he said loudly. Next slide. The fraud alert from my bank. Dad's name. The attempted charge. The rejection notice. Silence fell, heavy and suffocating. Then came the final blow. A slide titled, "The Family Fundraising Campaign." One by one, I listed relatives who had been approached for money. Uncle Jim, Aunt Linda, Cousin Mark, even Grandma. Text messages appeared on the screen. Dad's voice on a voicemail promising luxury memories, if only they could spare a little extra cash. The total, nearly 6,000 collected under false pretenses. Uncle Jim shot to his feet, red-faced. "John, you owe me $3,000. Today. Not next month, not next year. Today." Dad stammered. I never said Park City specifically." "You absolutely did," one of his business partners snapped. "You bragged about a 19,000 cabin, My wife has been telling everyone how generous you were. You made us look like fools. Claire tried to salvage the moment, her voice shrill. There was a misunderstanding about the booking, but we still had an amazing Christmas together. Location doesn't matter when there's family love. I clicked to the final slide. Photos of the cramped, 900 cabin they had actually rented near Denver. Grainy shots of Claire's deleted Instagram stories that I'd saved before she could erase them. This, I said, my voice steady, is where they actually spent Christmas. While lying to all of you, while scamming relatives out of money, while trying to steal from me. The room exploded. Voices overlapped anger, disbelief, demands for repayment. Dad's business partners walked out, faces hard with disgust. Aunt Linda shouted that she wanted her 500 back immediately. Even Claire's influencer friends turned on her, calling her a fraud, vowing to cut ties. Mom began to cry. Real tears this time. No manipulation, just despair. Claire collapsed into her chair, mascara streaking down her face. Dad tried to keep his composure, but his hands shook as he muttered excuses no one believed. I didn't yell. I didn't gloat. I simply stood there, calm and resolute, letting the truth do the damage. By the end of the night, the illusion was dead. Dad's reputation was in tatters, his clients furious. Claire's social media career was effectively over. Mom sat silent, hollow-eyed, as relatives demanded repayment. And me? For the first time in years, I felt free. Months later, the fallout was complete. Dad lost half his clients, then the rest. His accounting firm collapsed under the weight of scandal. Their house was repossessed. Claire moved into a dingy apartment, working minimum wage shifts and learning that manifestation doesn't pay rent. Mom aged 10 years in the span of 3. They tried to come back to me, of course, with apologies, with pleas, with guilt, but my answer was always the same. Sisters don't exclude their sisters from Christmas after they pay for everything. Fathers don't steal from their daughters. Mothers don't weaponize guilt to cover lies. You made your choice. Now live with it. And I walked away, leaving them to the consequences they had created. For the first time in my life, Christmas had truly been mine.